and include a little bit of her own biography and then make the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have to get my because I always cry when I talk about this subject. And I'm going to talk about new beginnings. And can everybody hear me? All right. I hate standing behind that thing. New beginnings. Tomorrow is September 11th. September 11th changed my life. I celebrate September 11th, and there I go, because I had an opportunity, or I gave myself an opportunity to have a new beginning. It was also a time to grieve over the many losses of life. I was working for a company that sold high-end computers and software. I was in their operations department. I had made plans to go to school, massage therapy school part-time, because I had enough vacation. I could take a half a day off for the next 2 years to do classes, and the rest of the classes I could do on the weekends. Well, what happened on 9/11, the gentleman who owned the company I was working for didn't want us to watch television, listen to the radio, to know what was going on. He wanted us to call customers. Now, they were evacuating downtown Cleveland, and he expected us to contact people who were going out, picking up their children from school, and trying to figure out how to get out of downtown Cleveland. I met my friend and my son for dinner that night, and I talked to them about what had happened. And I did not feel good about staying with that company. A week later, I walked in and quit my job. And I signed up to go to massage therapy school for full-time. And that was 20 years ago. That was my choice about changing my life, creating a new beginning for myself. And I'm not sorry I did. Massage therapy has become my passion. I'm pretty good at it. And they're going to let me know when it's time to retire, because I'm still working. And new beginnings, look at what it takes to start something new. One of the things that you cannot do is bring your old habits with you. I was a landlord at one time, and I rented my house to a woman with kids who came from East Cleveland. She wanted a better life. Problem was, she brought her old life with her, and nothing changed. Her son attempted robbery in the neighborhood, along with somebody else. He stole drugs, guns, money, and ended up getting caught because, well, I turned him in basically because he was around the same age my son was at that time, and that was around 13 years old, somewhere around there. And he's shooting the gun out the window of the bedroom that he sleeps in. And it was like, nope, we're not going to do that. So I ended up calling the police. And anyway, she was there. They trashed my house. She ended up getting married. She was single at that time. She had most of her children out of wedlock. Her daughter also had a child out of wedlock. And I'm sorry to say that child died of SIDS. She was unable, and her then husband had to go to jail for a crime he committed. You cannot have a new life if all you're doing is bringing your old garbage with you. I can't tell you, well, I had a lot of garbage too myself, I won't lie. But fortunately, I had already become involved with spiritualism. I started that in the early 1990s, and I knew Reverend Walt, and I knew Reverend, who wrote our Reverend Shauna. I knew all the old timers. And believe me, it was a lot different back then than it is today. So I had support from people to do that change of life. I also had a 401k I lived on for 2 years. So I don't have a 401k right now. So I really have to rely on the universe to provide for me for every day. So besides not bringing your old habits with you, you have to change your attitude. Every day is a gift. We forget that. We forget that every day is a gift. And so look at what happened over the weekend. Look what happened in Morocco. How many people lost their lives in Morocco? Look what happened in Maui and how many people lost their lives, their homes. Look what happened here with the tornadoes. Fortunately, we didn't have any fatalities, but there was a lot of damage done. So you have to, I believe, I love the tree of life. To me, the tree of life reminds me that we are living every day, and we have to be grateful for that. So I really wasn't prepared, so I'm doing this off the cuff, so forgive me if I get carried away. So you have to change your attitude. Not everything that happens to us is a disaster. I broke my wrist, and you'll never guess how. Exercising next door. I was, and that was in 2019. And that was, talk about creating new lives. That was another one. I was exercising. I was tired, and I knew I was tired, but I was doing step-ups. Well, I caught my foot coming down, went backwards, and I hit a piece of equipment. I threw my arm out, and I hit a piece of equipment, and I split the bottom of the radius. And I went, oh, that looks a little weird. Never hurt. Didn't feel any pain. Mark, who is the trainer over there, took me to urgent care. And they said, you broke your wrist. That turned out to be right before they shut us down for COVID. You talk about synchronicity, I couldn't work anyway. So the health department, the medical board shut down all massage therapy or massage on the 19th of March. So I went, okay, we're not working. So I had time to recover. And of course, and I thought, and I asked the doctor, I said, is this a career killer? And you know what he told me? It was up to me. I could decide if this is going to kill my career. I didn't have surgery, so I have no plates in the wrist. I refused to do that because it would have made doing massage much harder. So I happened to know or hear about a hand therapist who was more interested about function than she was about strength. So I saw her for many months to get my function back. And I actually went back to work in April. And I've been working ever since, almost ever since. Then, you get these messages. Do you listen to the messages you get for yourself? I get the message, slow down, take more time off. And if you don't do it, guess what happens? You break your wrist, or you have a blood clot go to your lungs, and you don't have a choice. You have to stop. So that happened in 2021. I had a blood clot go to my lungs, but I knew I was going to be okay because they told me. They told me, don't worry, everything is okay. I went back to work 2 weeks later with my oxygen tank. I'm stubborn like that. So I dragged my oxygen tank with me because I didn't have a portable oxygen concentrator at the time. So I dragged my oxygen tank with me. Made some people uneasy. Can't blame them. But it was more important to me to show up every day. And I thank my mother for that. She's long gone, but my mother had breast cancer. She was a 20+ year breast cancer survivor. But my mother had this routine. Mondays and Thursdays were wash days. When Tuesday or Wednesday, she did not drive, so she walked to the store or to the bank. And Friday was clean the house day. My mother did not stop. When she went through the chemo, she had chemo and the mastectomies. She didn't stop. She walked the dog every day. She just kept on going. And I think I had that picture in my mind that you just keep going. And I didn't do it to the detriment of my health, because all of that said you have to slow down. So I've cut back on the hours that I work, hopefully, not always. So I don't work as much as I used to, but I still work, and I'm still happy to be doing that. Like I said, they'll let me know when it's time to stop. So what kind of things, I'm going to ask all of you, would you do to start a new beginning? Would you look at what's going on in your life? By the way, I have 2 divorces behind me. Those were new beginnings. So you have to look at, where do I want to go with my life? What do I want in my life? So does anybody else besides me start all over? Chris, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what did you do to start over?
On 9/11, I was teaching French in Berea High School. My son was going to school there. My daughter's going to school across the street. There was a plane landed at Hopkins, and they cleared our schools because they thought that was an explosion. That's why they cleared the schools. So you were right. Like, nobody in the world wants to talk about whatever that business guy. You were right. But as I was watching it, what was sad is the kids who didn't have parents that could take them home, they were the ones that were still in school, and teachers could show it on TV whether we wanted or not. And as I was watching, I vowed that if there are people willing to strap bombs to themselves and be this courageous to destroy the world, I will change my life and be courageous and bring creativity and healing with more courage. And I stopped teaching a creativity class at Ashland University, and I began just teaching creativity in the streets. And I haven't changed. The reason why I'm sitting here is because of 9/11. So that's what I did.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody else have a comment? I'm walking because I want people to hear you. And I have bad hearing. Go on.
Well, I had a successful career in marketing, product management about 10 years ago. And then it went terribly because it wasn't what I was supposed to do. And so I decided to change my career drastically, went back to school, got my degree in counseling, and then started doing energy work. And now,
Thank you. Yeah, by the way, I went back to school twice. You heard about massage therapy. I went back to school when I was 35 to do computer repair. So, and I worked, that's how I got into the computers and the software. And I encourage people. I had a client the other day, and she said, well, what do you see with me when you look at me? I said, you have no confidence in yourself. what that was all I picked up. You have no confidence in yourself. And she said, that's true. And she wants to go back to school. She says, but I'm 45 years old. And I said, look, I went back to school the last time when I was in my 50s. You're younger, you can go back to school. And I did. I was in my 50s when I went to massage therapy school. And I was 35 the first time I went back to school. And I have to tell you, I had another power of example. My father. My father graduated he already had a degree in electrical engineering. He went to law school. He graduated from law school the same year I graduated from high school. So he created a new life for himself. We're all capable of creating new lives for ourselves. It just depends on how you want to go about it. Did you want to say something, Fran?
Well, I was just going to say that I have some things I want to change, and I'm trying to figure out how do you, okay, so how do I gain the discipline to actually make those changes? Like, how did you face the challenges and the fear and all those things that kept you from, tried to hold you back from making those changes?
A lot of anger. You tell me I can't do something, I get the attitude, I'm going to show you. When I went to computers, well, the electronics school I went through, at the Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation is. I lived in Ashtabula County. The counselor in Ashtabula County was willing to pay for 4 years of college for electrical engineering for me. I moved back to Cleveland, and I get this counselor, and she says, you people never finish what you start. She was only willing to let me go to electronics school, but she made me so mad. I said, I'll show you. Don't tell me I can't do something. The other thing I did, Fran, before I even thought about going to massage therapy school, the job I knew I was leaving. I just didn't know where I wanted to go. So what I did, I made lists. What do I like about the job? What fulfills me about that particular job, and what does not? I had almost every job in that company. I did computer repair. I set up their return department. I set up their new, they bought a company, so I set that whole thing up for them. So I was good at new beginnings, just because mainly because I'm very left brain. And I could do things like that. The other thing I did was I liked solving problems, which made me good for new jobs. And what's massage therapy, but nothing but solving problems in the body. So I wrote all these things down that I liked, and I finally realized it didn't matter what kind of job I had, as long as it fulfilled those things that fulfilled me. And if it didn't, then that wasn't the right job for me. And the other part of that, Fran, was faith. I knew I was doing the right thing. So when you know you're doing the right thing, they're behind you all the way. Did I worry? Absolutely. How am I going to pay my bills when I ran out of 401k? The chiropractor I don't work for, but I work with, he asked me to become a workers' comp provider. So I did, and they said, okay. He did a lot of workers' comp at that time. Workers' comp pays really well. So, and I do my own billing, so they pay me directly, and I just pay him rent. So that really was how I paid my bills in the beginning, before people came to me on their own. Most of the people I have now came via word of mouth, and they have issues. They're not there for a feel-good massage. I don't know how to do one of those, to be honest with you. I can try, but so it's making that list of what fulfills you. We all have that list in our minds, but most of us just go, well, I think I like that, but you don't write it down. You don't look at what fulfills you, and you don't write down what doesn't. So I think I did that before I even started looking for different things to do. I also, I was trained in Reiki. I became a Reiki master. And I volunteered. I didn't work. I volunteered at a Reiki clinic for a long time. And I realized that one of the things I wanted to do was work with people who needed help, physical help. And I have to tell you, when I first started this, I was very shy. You wouldn't have gotten me up here if my life depended on it. And it took me a long time to be comfortable to even tell somebody, I think you should come back next week. Because people, chiropractors, I hate to say, their job is to get you in the office 3 days a week for your insurance to pay for all of those things. The kind of work that I do, you can't come in 3 days a week. You can only come in once every 7 to 10 days because the body needs time to accept the work that you're doing. So we also need time to accept changes in our lives. When we make changes, they don't feel right. They feel like I'm making a mistake. You're not. You need to get used to doing something new. How long did it take you to enjoy counseling?
Well, probably 3 years.
3 years. So, you start a new business, and it is my business, which I never thought I was going to be in charge of, let me tell you. So it takes about 2 to 3 years to really get a business off the ground. But there's help out there. So I talked to somebody about they're starting a new business, and she didn't know what to do. And I said, the state of Ohio has this kit that tells you how to start a new business. You can just write and get it, or go online and get it. There's help out there. You just need to know where to look. Go to libraries. If you're not sure what kind of work you want to do, some of the libraries can do the testing for what you're good at. Some of the libraries will do that. So there's lots of things out there besides, and showing up. You have to show up every day. And that's the biggest thing. You have to show up every day. You have to be present. And they're telling me I'm out of time. So they say, shut up, it's time to sit down. So thank you all for listening to me.
So I didn't say that. You're doing great.
No, I looked at the clock.
So are there any quick questions for Pat? Yes.
Just a comment. Congratulations on your anniversary, by the way.
Thank you.
Wow. It's an important day. Sorry you have to share it with such a sad day, but
it's a day of celebration too.
Right.
Because I'm not the only one that made changes in their life that day. And we grieve for what we lost. But it gave us something else. It gave us an opportunity to be kind to one another, which I think we lost recently, but it did. It gave us a change in attitude towards one another after that.
I also want to thank you for stepping in. For those of you that don't know, our speaker that was scheduled for today couldn't make it. And Pat very graciously offered at the very last minute to step in, and she had this topic close to her heart, so she was able to share with everybody. So thank you very much for that.
Well, I think just to do that on such short notice and without expecting to do it and without being fully prepared, it's just phenomenal. It was really well done. Thank you, Christopher.
Yeah, just your presence and your speaking, my hands are heating up, so you're speaking through your gift. I just want to affirm that
Yes.
it's good to see you walking the walk and to feel your presence. It's real. It's the real deal.
Thank you.
You know, I have one more comment.
Okay.
Hogging the stage here. One thing that you didn't mention, which is very appropriate for this setting, is message work and spirituality. Like for a lot of people with message work and healing work, it's not comfortable for them.
That's
And
right.
so they don't ever take that step that they could potentially take and really get a lot out of it for their lives, but they're afraid, you know, I mean, they're unsure of themselves, they don't have the confidence, all those things you mentioned. So, you know, it doesn't just apply for what you're telling us, doesn't just apply for looking for a new job or changing something in our life. It also applies right here to this church. So,
Right.
and just like Chris talked a couple weeks ago at our outdoor service about us being the messengers, you know, a lot of us are afraid of that. We're afraid to speak our truth and how we see spirituality. And, you know, your talk tells us we need to step up.
Yes, you do. And I apologize. I'm not great at mediumship up here. My mediumship comes from here when I'm working on people. Your body tells me what you need. So that's where my gift goes, rather than up here and speak to all.
Well, I wasn't trying to guilt you. I was.
No, it's not a place I'm comfortable. Right. It's not that I can do it. I'm not necessarily, it's not where my gift is. My gift is this. So.
I was talking to.
Yeah, I know you are. I know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
To usher in our time for healing, truth, and messages from Spirit, please rise for our next song, which is number 6 in your hymnals, Higher Ground.